Welcome to My Generation podcast, sponsored by South Shore Senior News. I'm your host, Steve Dubin. Today we are talking about another chapter in your life and how to approach it and how to get some coaching and some insight and some outside assistance and maybe doing it more comfortably and more thoughtfully. Our guest today is Gayle Hanrahan, who has a coaching practice that part of her clientele are seniors who are looking to create greater meaning in their life, and that can be in a variety of ways. And I'll have Gayle discuss that. Gayle is based in Rhode Island, but travels all over the world via Zoom and has clients all over the world. And so, welcome, Gayle.
Thank you so much, Steve. I'm delighted to be here. Thanks for asking me.
Well, great to have you. So let's start with your personal journey, which is kind of emblematic of some of the transition that other folks are going through as well, which is you were in corporate America for about 40 years.
I was. I loved my 40 years in corporate America. I worked mostly for home box office for HBO, the cable network, and they were owned by Time Warner. And I started there in the early 80s, and that was a tremendous growth period for cable TV. So I went along for the ride and just absolutely loved it. What I did for HBO, I wish I could say I was on the glamorous side and I created The Sopranos, but I didn't do that. But I trained people how to sell HBO and Cinemax, our sister service, how to have a sales conversation with a customer. So when folks called in to complain about their bill and they ended up buying HBO by the end of the call, I was directly responsible. So I brainwashed many unsuspecting folks all over the country. It was a great job. It was a fabulous job. The company got bought in 2018 by AT&T, and they bought all of Time Warner, and they offered the next year early retirement. So I was 62 at the time, and I thought, I am going to hang out my shingle as a trainer and a coach and take over the world. And I put out the shingle, but it didn't quite exactly work out that way. I actually became depressed, Steve. I really spiraled into a depression. And a large part of that, I think I lost my community. I lost my tribe. You know, when you start a business, it's hard work. And I kind of felt alone, I think. And I had never had my own business. So I'll cut to the chase. So there I was in my 60s and battling a depression, and started a number of treatments, as often happens, and took a variety. People will really laugh, but this is the God's honest truth. Just to put some structure, believe it or not, helping other people was the best medicine for me, and putting myself into a social situation, which are two great things, to have in your toolbox when you have depression. So I worked at Kohl's. I worked at the front desk of the Marriott Hotel. I worked at a supermarket. And I kept, trying my coaching and, getting a few clients and et cetera. So I cut to the chase. I finally found the right treatment. I'm very happy to say, very grateful to say. So I really started about a year and a half ago, really putting a lot of time and effort into my coaching business. And I would say I'm lucky to say that all of my clients have been referrals, and that's always the best testimonial, right? And folks, it's funny. Someone said to me, "Your ideal client can often be yourself," and I have found that a lot of folks contemplating retirement or in retirement and not finding it quite as fulfilling as they had hoped. I definitely have a good number of those clients, and I love them. I love working with them. I obviously I know this path. I'm a playwright, is part of one of my hobbies, and I'm writing a one-woman play called How I Flunk Retirement. So it's a good way to kind of get that story out there. But anyway, so I do a variety of things with my folks who are, contemplating retirement, uh, or in it. I always say we're going to rewire, not retire. And there are a lot of different tools that you can use. I have very lucky, again, I'm almost ICF, which is the gold standard of coaching is International Coaching Federation. I'll be certified at the end of September. I also have, like many coaches, have a number of certifications in different things. One of them is a program called the Best Year Yet, and that would probably take us another hour. But I know you've been so wonderful to put my website with my name. We'll talk about that at the end. But the website for me is really the best place for people to get to know me a little bit more, my background. There's a 90-second video. I was told that videos increase your traffic by something like 70%. I said, I think I'm going to make a video. And so I did. And it explains one of the tools that I use, which is the Best Year Yet process. So, but there's a variety of things on there. A good coach, in my mind, has a lot of tools. And sometimes the best tool, and I do mean this, the best tool of all the shiny tools that we have is to really listen to people, really, really deeply listen to what's in their heart. I'll share with you. Am I talking too much?
Oh, no, you're explaining well.
Oh, well, good. I'm really glad to hear that. There were a couple of notes I jotted down, knowing that you and I would have the pleasure of chatting again. And there's a Walt Disney quote that I love. He wrote, "The way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing." And real transformation occurs when you talk action, when you take action, I should say, and that's really and truly what coaching is about. So where I start with a client or a potential client, and by the way, my first session is completely free. I've got to make sure that's on my website. That I'll spend a couple of hours on the phone, Zoom, or in person, asking a lot of questions about times in your life where you felt fulfilled, inspired, passionate. So we really get to the core of what lights you up. And we put a plan together of what you would really love to see, say, 12 months from now. And then we meet monthly and we put actions behind those goals. We break it down. I call them my baby steps because habits take a while to make. So we try to be gentle with ourselves, but the smallest action can really lead to bigger things. I'm sure that's, an important part of your business and what you tell your clients. You got to start. And it's funny. The best way to train, I always found, was telling stories. I just had a client last Friday that I've been working with for 12 months. She's in her 70s. She is retired, and she wanted to create her best year yet. And on Friday, I'm telling you, I cried because she did it. She aced it. She aced it. And she gets to fire me. That's what I told her. I said, you fire me now because you have the skills now to coach yourself. You know how to do it now. You know how to put down guidelines for yourself and a new belief about yourself and what you want to accomplish, and then break it down every month and, keep it front and center. Have that as your.
And so let me ask,
Yeah, sorry, I do go
no,
on.
I think that was a really good description, but tell me what that, without breaking confidences or anonymity, maintaining anonymity, what does that greatest year of her life look like, in brief?
Absolutely. It's so funny. I just sent her a follow-up email. I always send after a session, I send a follow-up email. So she had 6 goals. One was her major focus. For some people, it's their business, but her focus was to be her biggest fan, her biggest cheerleader. Love that. And she was really, without going into detail, one of her children, adult children, is going through a very, very tough time, and so much so that that adult child had to move back home. And that's a very challenging situation. So my client had a lot of apprehension, obviously, about that. She didn't want to, she felt maybe prior in their relationship, she had enabled her, and she really wanted to take a different direction, in their relationship. So that was very important to her. She also has a partner, and she wanted to make this the best year yet in terms of, little things and big things that just deepen their relationship. Her grandchildren were really, and they're both out of state, all of her grandchildren, she has 6. So trying to figure out ways to influence, to let them know how much she loved them and cared about them and was thinking about them with long distance. So we worked a lot on that. She also is an artist, and she's a theater artist, and she wanted to definitely scratch that itch. She wanted to audition more, and she wanted to at least have one role that really fulfilled her. So, like I said, she aced it. I didn't do any of the work. I tell everybody, I'm the laziest coach you'll ever meet in your life. You do 99.5% of the work. If I'm good, I ask the right questions and I hold your feet to the fire. I'm not afraid to say, hey, what's going on? Is that still important? You didn't, nothing moved the needle there. So let's talk about that. Is it still important?
And so the process itself sounds like there's some one-to-one interaction, whether that's Zoom or in person, and I know you do both, depending on the geography and the preference of the client. But in addition to that, it sounds like there are online tools as part of your service that help people sort out some of where they're at and where they want to go as well. Correct?
There are. There are. It's a great point, Steve. I'm certified in something called the Enneagram, which I couldn't even pronounce when I first saw it. I was like, what? But it's a personality typing tool. It's very ancient, but I administer that at no charge. And then we do a debrief, when I meet the client. I also use Myers-Briggs. I have a shortened version of the Myers-Briggs personality assessment, which is a very good assessment. So any kind of tools that put people in touch with their strengths and their challenges or vulnerabilities, because I always lead with strengths. You should do that in everything. Am I right? I mean, you really and truly. And sometimes people, they they don't know their strengths, or they're not putting them out front and center. Oh, I've always done that, or yeah, I guess that's right. And I'm like, no, there's only one you, and you have all of these treasures. Truly, you do. And how awful to not share those. So let's focus on them. Let's put them out there in areas that really get you excited. And that's my husband says, he's so funny. I could do this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Like I said, I loved my job at HBO because I was constantly, I was a social butterfly. I mean, I was doing classes and coaching, and then I do think that's, what I've learned, for me anyway, that I call this my third chapter, my semi-retirement. By the way, for your listeners, there is a great podcast that some folks may have already found, but I love it for us older women. It's called Wiser Than Me, and you can get it on any of the platforms, Apple or Spotify. But it's Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who, of course, was Elaine on Seinfeld, and Veep, one of my favorite HBO, get the plug in there series. But she gets schooled by older women that she really admires, like Jane Fonda, Carol Burnett, the fabulous writer Isabel Allende, Amy Tan, great writer. It's so delightful. And at the end of every episode, she calls her mother to get her mother's feedback on the episode. It's just delightful. So I've learned, a lot about, the lessons, I think older folks like myself, we have so much knowledge and expertise to share and to tap into that and to, whether you do it for profit or not. And again, it all, like I said, people say, oh, finding your purpose. Well, I don't know. I think of it a little bit differently. I just think finding your passion, and for everybody, it's different. It's just different depending on where you are in life. And that's the fun part.
Okay.
Lucky me.
And then a couple of things. I know we've talked about you work with a limited number of people at any given time. How many people do you tend to work with?
I would say about on average 12 to 15.
Okay. And I think the sunflowers behind you deserve an explanation.
Thank you. Well, it's so funny. I can't tell you. I know that I asked permission to use this, with Zoom. I'm a slow learner sometimes with tech stuff, but I finally got the virtual background thing down. And a friend of mine took this picture and I got her permission. It's the city of Providence, which I love. Lots of arts going on there. I'm a huge theater arts person. But the sunflowers, one of my clients, they're all very smart, told me, they said, Gayle, I love your sunflowers. Did you know that's the national flower of Ukraine? And I was just stopped dead in my tracks. And I said, it's my favorite flower. It's on my business card. And I had no idea, but I'm very proud to have
Okay.
that for those very brave, courageous people there for sure.
Yeah. Well, so that sort of brings us to the end of this podcast. And actually, there's a nice tie-in that I think it's pretty brave for people to reach out for some outside assistance when they're looking for growth and answers and new pathways. And Gayle, what's the best way to reach out to you to maybe have that free session and see what might come up?
I love that. Yes. And I call it try out coaching. Will it work for you? I don't know. But why don't you give it a try and see? And I'll ask questions and I'll do some coaching and then you decide. Totally free. All you have to do, it's very, very easy. I would say go to my website. It's www. My first name, which is a weird spelling, blame my father. It's Gayle. So Gayle, followed by my last name, Hanrahan, Hann as in Nancy, Rahan, followed by the word coaching, coaching.com. Or I also, if I'm having a conversation with someone, and I just say, oh, just Google Gayle Hanrahan coaching. Oftentimes that will bring you as well. And there's testimonies so you can see what other people think. You'll see my blogs. You'll see, you could spend, God knows no one would want to, even my husband. But anyway, you will find a lot of information on there, but I would check out the little video. The little 90-second video will give you, I think, a taste and a flavor. And then it's very easy. You just fill in, your name and your contact information. If you say, I would be interested in talking to you further, I'd love to have a chat. And we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, Gayle, thank you for being on with us today on My Generation podcast, which is sponsored by South Shore Senior News. South Shore Senior News is both a print publication, and you can find them at South Shore Senior News, actually southshoresenior.com. And the publication is meant for seniors and people involved with seniors, in particular the sandwich generation, who often help them through their day. And we're open to ideas of if you have some suggestion of an interesting senior or someone who provides services to seniors who would make a great podcast guest, please contact us at southshoresenior.com. And Gayle, again, thank you so much for being with us today.
It was such a pleasure. Thank you, Steve.
Okay, take care.